The story of marijuana in America is a tale of prohibition, a century-long shadow cast upon a plant with ancient roots and myriad uses. For generations, cannabis was demonized, its potential benefits obscured by a narrative of fear and misinformation. This narrative, fueled by racial prejudice and political expediency, culminated in the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, effectively criminalizing the plant nationwide. The decades that followed saw marijuana increasingly associated with counterculture and social unrest, further cementing its prohibited status. The Controlled Substances Act of 1970, which categorized cannabis as a Schedule I drug with no currently accepted medical use, solidified this stance. This classification, tragically misguided from the start, fueled the engine of the war on drugs, leading to mass incarceration, particularly within minority communities. Despite the devastating consequences of this protracted prohibition, hope flickered on the horizon. As scientific understanding of cannabis advanced, revealing its therapeutic potential, public opinion began to shift. The tide was turning, slowly but surely, setting the stage for a momentous change in the American landscape. The winds of change began to blow across America, carrying with them the scent of cannabis and the promise of a more just and enlightened future. Public support for marijuana legalization steadily climbed, fueled by a growing understanding of its medicinal benefits and the demonstrably failed policies of prohibition. State-level initiatives, spearheaded by pioneers like Colorado and Washington, demonstrated the viability of regulated cannabis markets. These early successes, coupled with global trends toward decriminalization and legalization in countries like Canada and Uruguay, emboldened the movement for federal reform. By the mid-2020s, a clear majority of Americans supported ending federal prohibition. It was a testament to the power of evidence-based policy and the tireless advocacy of countless individuals and organizations. The stage was set for a historic shift in federal policy, one that would reshape the nation's relationship with cannabis forever. In a landmark decision that reverberated across the nation, the federal government finally lifted the decades-old ban on marijuana. The Cannabis Freedom Act, passed in 2025, ushered in a new era, decriminalizing possession, cultivation, and sale of cannabis nationwide. This comprehensive legislation established a regulatory framework modeled after alcohol, with a 21-plus age limit and strict licensing requirements for businesses operating in the newly legal industry. States retained a degree of autonomy in shaping their own cannabis policies, allowing for variations in taxation, licensing fees, and local regulations. The act also included provisions for the expungement of non-violent cannabis convictions, a crucial step towards righting the wrongs of the past and offering a fresh start to millions of Americans. It marked a decisive break from the failed policies of prohibition, embracing instead a future grounded in reason, justice, and individual liberty. With the stroke of a pen, the weight of injustice began to lift from the shoulders of countless individuals whose lives had been ensnared by the criminalization of cannabis. The Cannabis Freedom Act mandated the expungement of non-violent marijuana convictions, offering a path to redemption and a chance to rebuild lives shattered by the war on drugs. This landmark reform aimed to address the profound racial disparities in marijuana enforcement, which had disproportionately targeted communities of color for decades. By clearing criminal records, the act sought to remove barriers to employment, housing, and education, paving the way for social and economic mobility. While expungement represented a crucial step towards restorative justice, it was only the beginning. The legacy of discriminatory enforcement demanded a more comprehensive approach, one that included investment in marginalized communities, support for minority-owned businesses, and a commitment to dismantling systemic racism in all its forms. The legalization of marijuana unleashed a wave of economic activity, transforming the cannabis plant from a black market commodity into a booming industry. The legal cannabis market, estimated to reach $100 billion by 2030, created a wealth of opportunities for entrepreneurs, investors, and workers across a wide range of sectors. From cultivators and dispensaries to manufacturers of edibles, concentrates, and CBD products, the industry blossomed. Job creation soared, with an estimated 1.5 million new positions emerging in cultivation, processing, retail, and ancillary businesses like packaging, logistics, and marketing. state and federal governments reaped the benefits of tax revenue generated by the legal cannabis market. These funds were earmarked for essential public services, including education, healthcare, and infrastructure projects, further fueling economic growth and improving the lives of all citizens. Healing the past, social equity, and the promise of reparations. As the green shoots of the legal cannabis industry began to sprout, a fundamental question emerged: who would benefit from this burgeoning market? For communities ravaged by the war on drugs, particularly communities of color, the promise of economic opportunity had to be accompanied by a commitment to social justice. States and municipalities, recognizing the need to address past harms, implemented social equity programs designed to promote ownership and employment opportunities for those most impacted by prohibition. These programs prioritized licensing for minority-owned businesses, provided access to capital and resources, and offered job training and placement services. While these initiatives represented a step in the right direction, true social equity required a more comprehensive approach. Reparations, in the form of direct investment in communities harmed by the war on drugs, were essential to healing the wounds of the past and creating a more just and equitable future. Balancing act public health considerations in a post-legalization era. The legalization of marijuana ushered in a new set of public health challenges and opportunities. On the one hand, access to regulated cannabis products offered potential benefits for individuals suffering from chronic pain, anxiety, and other ailments. On the other hand, concerns remained about the potential for increased adolescent use, impaired driving, and the long-term health effects of cannabis consumption. To mitigate these risks, governments implemented robust public education campaigns, modeled after successful anti-tobacco initiatives, to inform the public about responsible cannabis use. Strict regulations governing product safety, labeling, and potency, coupled with ongoing research into the potential risks and benefits of cannabis, were crucial to ensuring public health and safety in a post-legalization world. By prioritizing evidence-based policies and promoting responsible consumption, policymakers aim to strike a balance between individual liberty and the well-being of all citizens. Cultural shift, cannabis, normalization, and evolving social attitudes. With the end of federal prohibition, cannabis shed its illicit image and began to integrate into the fabric of American culture. Once relegated to the shadows, cannabis products and paraphernalia emerged into the mainstream, appearing in movies, television shows, and advertisements. Workplace policies adapted to the changing legal landscape, with many employers re-evaluating their stance on drug testing and cannabis consumption outside of work hours. Social attitudes, particularly among younger generations, shifted dramatically, with cannabis use becoming increasingly normalized and accepted. This cultural shift, however, was not without its critics. Concerns remained about the potential for increased youth access, the normalization of drug use, and the commercialization of a substance with potential risks. Navigating these complex social and cultural changes required open dialogue, ongoing research, and a commitment to responsible regulation. Global catalyst: U.S. legalization's ripple effect on the world stage. The United States' decision to legalize marijuana sent shockwaves across the globe, signaling a seismic shift in the global drug policy landscape. As the world's largest economy and a cultural powerhouse, the U.S. exerted significant influence on international drug conventions and the policies of other nations. Countries grappling with their own cannabis policies look to the U.S. as a model, studying its regulatory framework, economic impacts, and public health outcomes. The legalization movement gained momentum worldwide, with more countries considering decriminalization, medical cannabis programs, and even full legalization. The U.S., once a staunch proponent of prohibition, found itself at the forefront of a global paradigm shift, championing a more humane, evidence-based approach to drug policy. This shift, driven by science, compassion, and a growing recognition of the failures of the war on drugs, held the promise of a more just and equitable future for all.